Hey, I've only got 10 minutes, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about working with children who are traumatized. I have been blessed to have that opportunity to work with many, actually mostly traumatized children over the years. And this morning, this happened like just today, so this is so cool. I was working with a severely traumatized child who is now um, a preteen, and I had started with them when they were 5, and they had massive early childhood trauma that included sexual trauma, that included neglect, malnourishment, literally everything. And so she asked me when I was going to be our next appointment. When was our next appointment going to be? And I explained to her that I was going to be away for a couple of weeks and that I was going to be teaching other counselors and helping professionals about working with traumatized children. And she said, just like this, I have some wisdom I'd like to share with them. And I said, all right, let me write it down and I will make sure I will share it with helping professionals that work with children. And she, so I want to share that with you. So I want to be a woman of my word and fulfill my promise. And here are some of the things that she told me, and I'm passing them on to you, but I would have told them to you anyway. So it was just so cool that I had this preteen affirming these things. She said, don't force too much on children, especially don't force them to talk. So I know that so many of us, and it doesn't just come from us, like it comes from outside sources too, want us to get children to talk to us, to tell us the story, to implicate people who have hurt and harmed them as a way to keep them safe, really. And but what she said is don't do that. And I would go a little bit further is I don't even think you can force children to talk, but it's that dynamic where they can feel it that gets in the way of the healing. So this is a preteen who is thriving, who is giving you this information. Okay, so she said, don't do that. She said, also make them feel safe. And I followed up with her and I said, well, I mean, we've been working together for a long time, and you were just a little girl when we first started. So can you remember like what made you feel safe? And she said, the sand made me feel safe. And I thought that was really interesting. And she said, when you're playing in the sand, she says it's like all your problems and all your scaredness melts into the sand. Isn't that beautiful? And she said, and then I could leave it here in the sand. So she said sand made her feel safe. And I was kind of blown away by that. Um, and then that it made all her cares disappear was another thing that she said related to that. The other thing that she said made her feel safe goes back to what I said first, is she said, you never made me do anything I didn't want to do. And she said, I never played with anything I didn't want to play with. I never had to talk about anything I didn't want to talk about. And then the other thing that made her feel safe, snacks. So she said, and you always asked me if I wanted a drink or wanted a snack, and we still do that. So I think there's like some really juicy, rich things in there for that we can do. Like you can do this. You can offer kids snacks at the very least, right? Make telling a child, telling an adult that this is a safe place does not make this a safe place. What makes it a safe place is you, right? You as the clinician. So, what do you have in your space? Do you have sand and toys and things that are and art, art supplies and things that children feel like they can really be engaged with? And do you allow them to engage with those things in their own way? I mean, that was what I really heard her saying, which is so consistent, with the child-centered play therapy model, which is really consistent with humanistic ways and person-centered ways of doing the work. It's and in that way is really trauma informed because we're working from the bottom of the brain up. where trauma like sort of sets up shop. And the other thing that was really cool about this was because that is the kind of work that I did, bottom up work with her all those years, is that now 5, 6 years later is now we can do some of the cognitive stuff. And now it's, oh, I mean, it's just, like I said, she's a thriver. And then the last thing she said, and that I'll share with you today, because I just think it's so valuable. You usually don't have opportunities like this, but even in this moment, they were just coming from her. It was what was emerging organically. Uh, I'm a big proponent for that in counseling, and um, I, I, I really think that the more we allow to emerge organically, the better we are, or the better we can be at being truly attuned, fully attuned to what our clients are going through. They can feel that, right? They can feel that. And that's part of where the healing happens. Okay. So the last thing that she wanted me to share with you all, that I'll be sharing with you today, is she said, be patient with us. We're just kids, even if it takes years. And I was like, whew, that also is just such valuable wisdom from childhood, right? And is certainly in child-centered play therapy, we talk about the wisdom of children. Well, this is more wisdom, right? But this is wisdom specific about the work of play therapy. I used a child-centered play therapy with her approach with her straight away, all along, years of it. And about that healing is a process that takes years. And so I think when she said be patient, what I'd like you to take away with you from that is that I think in some ways she was saying, when she said be patient, we're just kids, she was saying be patient with us, right? She be patient with us because we're children, because we're traumatized children. What I'm saying as a supervisor and counselor educator is you also need to be patient with yourself, because I think a lot of the stakeholders and we do it to ourselves. I don't really know another way to say it, is that we want to see results, and we want to see results, and the stakeholders like parents and educators, they want to see results for the same reason, quickly, because then we feel better, right? We feel better about what this child has been through, and how that's manifesting and all of those things. But I want you to take this wisdom from this sage advice from this child, who has been through it all, to be patient with children, even if it takes years. And so, if we could do that, then I think we can really see the incremental healing journey that our clients go on, especially our clients that are children. So I hope that you were able to pull some nuggets of wisdom out of what she shared, and just be thoughtful about the ways that we're doing the work that we do, the really important work that we do. So thanks for listening. Maybe I'll have a 10-minute break to share something else with you later.